So, welcome to today's AMA or Q&A, I should say. It's a Q&A open house. I'm so excited to be discussing some things with you. The primary one that we are discussing is the retreat in Iceland. I did also mention that I would address the next chapter of Astro Yoga teacher training. That will be brief, and other questions that you may have. So I know some people had a couple questions separate from the Iceland retreat, but we do have Laura here, who is the founder and knower of all things about One Yoga Global, who is it is the international yoga retreat company that we are working with. Laura is fantastic. She puts together travel into locations that are not typically traveled. So it's sort of like off the beaten path. You really get authentic, interesting, immersive experiences where you go. And she has so graciously agreed to come with us to answer questions about this Astro Yoga adventure in Iceland, which will be kind of the main thing we discuss at first, especially to make use of Laura's time. And the questions I know are popping up because we do have the deadline to register approaching. But then also, I know that this spring is nuts with astrology, and some of you might have a couple questions with that. And so I'm also here for questions like that. But I just want to share this presentation, which does have a couple points to begin with, just to open up our discussion. So I swore to the people who asked for these to start doing open houses for the International School of Astro Yoga to share a little bit of information. So this is our first one, actually, by popular request. And something you might not know about me is, yes, I'm an astrologer and a yoga teacher. I've been certified in these things for over 15 years. But at a certain point, I went back to school to study exactly this. And what I actually wound up doing my master's thesis on was international travel as a component for people's spiritual processes and the ways that we interact with both cultural and environmental environments and arenas, and how that creates the sort of exchange on both like a spiritual and a material level, material being your body, material being the environment. And so this is like something I get really excited about. So I'll spare you my boring sort of graduate school thesis from over 10 years ago, but I do get jazzed to talk about it. So today, and this is a picture from where we're going in Iceland with the Northern Lights, a beautiful photo. We are going to discuss the Iceland Astro Yoga Retreat. Definitely answer your questions. Make sure we get into exactly what you need to know to feel confident and happy when you register, excited to go, and to know that it's a good fit for you. That retreat takes place October 25th through November 1st this year. But the registrations, I'm asking people to put their deposit in by April 15th. And the reason is we need to hit a minimum by 6 months before, which is April 25th, to make sure that it's a go. So I'm asking people to please put it in, and you do get $200 off if you put it in by the end of the month. So if you think you might go, please do that. And then I promise to address the Astro Yoga teacher training and 300-hour program, a couple questions about that. And then any of your questions that you have, this is an open forum. It's for you. I'm here to answer as best I can. So let's get into it because I'm so excited about the Iceland Astro Yoga Retreat. Here's another beautiful photo that I received from Laura from where we will be traveling. I just love mountains, so I love seeing this. But it is October 25th to November 1st. And there's some highlights about what we're doing. So I'm an Astro Yoga specialist. Um, Astro yoga, so astrology and yoga have been linked for thousands of years. There are traditional practices, and then there's also modern application of those processes in our asana practice. And they also interrelate with where you are on Earth. So there is such a thing as doing like DNA activation practices, integral alignment practices in tandem with location. And Iceland is really the perfect place to do this in the autumn in Scorpio season because the northern lights are dancing. There's a sort of electromagnetic alignment in environment as well as in the body. And we will be doing some really fun all level practices. So this isn't about, um, I think there's a certain perceived yogic ability. Sometimes people worry if they can't touch their toes or do something in particular physically. It's not about the physical practice. It's about the depth and alignment of intention. And then I'll work with each person to make sure that they're operating in the yoga practice as they see fit. We will be in a gorgeous yoga center, which I think I have some photos of as we flip through the next slides, which overlooks, I think, waters and mountains and just a gorgeous area. We'll have it to ourselves. There's a coffee and tea bar. There's some beautiful chairs that overlook the environment. So if anyone's bringing someone who maybe only wants to sometimes do yoga or, they don't have to do yoga. They can engage in these different ways. And then the afternoons are the parts, I think, the traveling part you get really excited about, where you get to go to points of power in nature, healing hot springs. There's three in particular, and I'm hoping Laura can talk about them because when she described them to me, I got so enthusiastic about them. Um, Hopefully, some with great views of the northern lights. I think she mentioned one where it's often not cloudy there, so our statistical probability of soaking under the northern lights is higher. There's also horseback riding or whale watching, so you get to pick which one you prefer. That's going to be hard for me because one of my hobbies is whale watching, but I also am born and raised right outside Louisville, Kentucky, and have always ridden horses recreationally. So I think those sound really exciting. And then exploring Icelandic folklore and culture. We're going to the Waterfall of the Gods, which is magnificent. People love to photograph this place. So when I Googled it, I found just the most amazing drone footage, photographs, and I do have a photograph of that as we go through. So basically, every morning, yoga of the highest aligned caliber that will grow and deepen over the course and the arc of the week. And then in the afternoon, amazing connection with nature, amazing connection with culture, community as well. Everyone who goes, I've gone on many trips where I came back with new friends. So here are a couple photos. These two are of two of the hot springs, I think. Is that the GOC, Laura?
The GOC is the top one with the yellow lookout tower, and that one is in a town called Husavik, and that those baths actually overlook the Arctic Ocean. It's probably my favorite bath in all of Iceland. It's the only bath in Iceland that actually is tapped into the geothermic waters that's mixed with seawater. So you're actually soaking in mineral rich, volcanically heated spring water and salt water from the Arctic Ocean. And it is so incredible. So that's part of your week. The one underneath it is the baths in a region called Mývatn, and that's the one where you get to soak at night. Um, that if sometimes if you got clear skies and you have solar activity, I've been there a couple times where that's the one where you might, get the big show or not. So maybe you'll get it another night. But that's the one that's it's in the lava fields. Um, so literally, it's tapped from the water of that region, which has a different mineral content, and you're just literally sitting in a lava field. Sometimes they call it the Blue Lagoon of the North. A lot of people have heard of the Blue Lagoon of Iceland. That's in South Iceland. It's very touristy. It's close to the airport. This retreat takes you to the northern tip of Iceland, which is just a few degrees from the Arctic Circle. And for me, this is where you go to do yoga retreat because you're getting out of the tourism, you're in some of the most beautiful landscapes, and usually you're not competing, right, with all the big tourism. And some of the best features are there, in my opinion. And I've been all over Iceland, so I can say that. So yes, those are two of the baths. There's a third one that you'll have an opportunity to visit as well. That's closer to where you're staying. But this is a part of what Iceland is very um, famous for in some ways is just the geothermal waters that they tap into, and is a big part of their culture. Almost every town in Iceland was built around a public pool, from the days of old. This is how you live an environment, right? Especially in wintertime where it gets real cold and dark, is you have this natural heating source. It's really a special feature there. So I could go on a lot about every single thing that you say. So I'll try to keep it a little bit brief when you need me to go over some of the itinerary and questions.
Oh yeah, it sounds so amazing. As a person who often travels to points of power in nature or goes to hot spring waters on purpose for my personal travel around, I'm thrilled. I'm so excited. These are some of the most majestic photos of hot springs I've ever seen. Um, and that's coming from me, and I always think I live in a land of majestic hot springs because I live in the close to the Cascade Mountains where there are many, but none of them quite match this. So,
There's nothing like this on the planet, and I can say that because I've run, I think the last count was over 350 retreats to almost to probably 30 different countries which have kind of these power features. And I've never been anywhere like Iceland, and it's why I go back every year and want to go back every year. So I think you're absolutely right when you said, looking for the power places. Iceland is one of those places on the planet, and it's palpable. Like I've been, studying yoga for 30 years. I've been a teacher for 20 years. I've been doing events management for almost 20 years. And this is a place where the prana is unlike anywhere else I've ever been. And you can feel it in the air, you can taste it in the food, everything's organic there. The water there, in every house you have a hot water tap and a cold water tap. The hot water tap is literally water that they're tapping into from the geothermal volcanically heated water. That's what's coming out of the hot water tap. The cold water tap is glacial water. It is some of the cleanest water on the planet. You fill up your water bottle with the water out of the cold tap, and it's glacial water. There's no bottled water in Iceland. You don't want to drink from the hot water tap though, because you're going to get the minerals there in the hot water tap, but that's what you're showering in. That's what you're bathing in. You're actually bathing in the mineral waters just from the houses. They have pipes that run around Iceland that literally bring the hot water that they've tapped from the earth. They have to cool it down before it gets to your house. It's that hot. But it's such an amazing culture and setup, and how they've used, you know, nature's gifts, and created this clean energy, clean food, clean water. They don't they don't let anything that's not organic into the country. I mean, that's how much they care about it, right? And the environment. So you feel it when you're there. I mean, it's the cleanest food I've ever had, the cleanest water, right? You get to breathe the salt air. It's just, oh, I crave it. Talk about DNA turning on. I have Scandinavian DNA. So when I showed up there for the first time about 10 years ago, actually, I just was like, whoo, my DNA is alive here.
it
So
is
I think
interesting.
a lot of people feel that.
It is interesting how sometimes you go into places and your body feels more alive, like your
Yes.
cells. Um, I always think of my body as like an amalgamation of tiny little cell animals. I don't know, probably a lot of people do, but a lot of the times when I do yoga, right, like when you do pranayama, you think about imbuing your cells with prana, yes, by holding the prana from your breath, but you also think about non-disruptive breathing. So you're breathing in such a way that, yes, you're trying to expand your capacity, but you're not trying to shock or torture your cells as you encourage them to take on more prana. You're you're gently expanding, you're gently moving. And so I often feel like that when I go into places um, in nature that are really high caliber like that. And this, I believe, is the waterfall of the gods, just the
Yep,
most
that is
majestic
Godafoss is the name of that waterfall.
waterfalls.
Yeah. And it's actually close to the Mevatin nature bath. So you actually are seeing some of those sites on the same day.
Fantastic, fantastic.
And if you're lucky, that waterfall there might be some snow, there might be some icing, which just brings out a whole nother color palette. I've seen that waterfall in a bunch of different seasons, and it's just like it's a painting. It's really special.
Beautiful, beautiful. So here are a few more photos just of the beautiful landscape. I wanted to show these photos and then people riding horses in autumn through the beautiful trees and another group. I just think these woolly Iceland horses are really cute. So I wanted to put those photos in if anyone's a horse fan or a whale fan. Whales notoriously more difficult to photograph though.
For
Um,
horse people, the Icelandic horse is unique on the planet. There are no other horses allowed in Iceland. That breed of horse has evolved in Iceland. It actually comes from a Mongolian breed of horse. So they're smaller and they're super sturdy. And in the winter, they grow long hair coats. And they're some of the most grounded horses I've ever been on because they're in relationship with the earth and they're not kept in the same way that, other horse farms keep horses. Like they get to live and breathe and they get rewilded during the year. They work a few months and then they just get to be out in the pasture. And yeah, so people who like horses, I do recommend having that experience because it's quite unique. And for those who are riders, the Icelandic horse actually has a fifth gait that is unique to the Icelandic horse. It's called the tolt.
oh,
So
really?
Emily can look that up.
I will look that up. Yeah, I have interesting memories of when I accidentally galloped on a horse once. I'm not a fast-paced horse
Yeah,
rider, and I remember the surprise when it shifted to that and how fast it went. So I
yeah.
will be looking that up. Thank
They
you.
won't make you gallop on the horses. Every so often, I'll have a couple people who are really, they're horse riders, and they come in and they'll go on their own group with their own guide, right? And the rest of us go with you know, the more conservative group. But yeah, it's you get to walk, you do a little bit of trotting, you can practice doing the tolt. The tolt is actually just after the trot and it's very, very smooth. It's a very unique gait. But really, you just get to be on these horses in the countryside and you're on these horses for up to 2 hours. So it's not like, here, 20 minutes, let's walk in a circle. No, you get to actually be on these horses like in North Iceland. It's one of the most, you know, cool things to do. I mean, I've never done that until I did it there. And I was like, oh, wow, this is actually being in relationship with this being, you know? So it's another type of yoga.
Yeah, there's something beautiful about that connection. And then I brought in some photos of the town. I think the town is so pretty and it's situated just in the most beautiful area here. And then this is just one photo of some of the area where we'll be doing yoga. I don't think you can see fully out the windows there, but it does overlook this majestic scenery. So, um, I think it's going to be so fun. Do you have anything you want to add about the town in particular?
Sure. So the town is called Akureyri. It's the biggest city in Iceland is Reykjavik. Everyone's heard of that. That's where you fly into, and that's where most of the population is. So this is straight up north. Population of this town's about 18,000. Um, I think it's the second second biggest city or town in Iceland. Everything's super modern. So this is a first world country. Everything is done with great care. There's Wi-Fi everywhere. Like it's not like you're living rustic at all. This is you know, they take great care in everything that they do there. The town of Akureyri was built on a fjord. So that's an inlet of water. So that water you see there is actually the fjord coming in from the Arctic. And the mountains you see in the back, you only have these types of mountains in North Iceland. They don't exist in any other parts of Iceland. So in the winter, they actually have a couple places where you can ski, and it's the only places you can ski in Iceland. But it makes for a very beautiful backdrop that's unique to North Iceland. So on one side of the fjord, you'll see that's the town of Akureyri. Um, you see that little building with the peaks, that's a church. You know, they have a really beautiful, iconic church there. Um, and literally, I could almost see where your housing is. Like you guys are right in that town center. All of the housing, right, is within a couple blocks of the main street of the town center, so you can walk really easily from your domiciles. Um, you know, into town. You'll have dinner in town some nights, and then you can just walk home when you're ready, sort of thing. The wellness center is on the other side of the fjord. So the owners of this wellness center are yogis, and they were drawn to Iceland. Um, I think around 2007. They're from Switzerland originally, but they came to Iceland and had that experience that a lot of people do. Like, wow, this place is unique, right? And coming from Switzerland, that says a lot because Switzerland's a beautiful place. It also has high energy, but they moved their family there and they were able to get this property on the other side of the fjord and they built this yoga space. And it's just to host yoga groups and wellness groups. That's it. And they really did it right, right? You can feel it and how the care they put into it. It's a big, beautiful space with wood floors. You've got an entry, you have a little lounge, you've got coffee and tea, you've got a kind of a relaxation room. They have a big geothermic jacuzzi right in the backyard, you know, the back section. So, you know, you guys get to use that space for the whole time that you're there. And they built it just on the other side of the city on purpose so that it would, you know, just have a lot of spaciousness. So when you look out the windows, you're kind of looking towards the fjord and you're seeing the mountains and it's very quiet. Um, so it's just, you know, it's sweet. It's sweet to do yoga practices there.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So I wanted to cover just a reminder. So when is the retreat? The retreat is October 25th through November 1st. This is really cool. It's in Scorpio season. It's coming after, you might have noticed the energy in the air right now is really intense. We're in eclipse season combined with Mercury and Venus retrograde. You don't have to know what that means to know that there's been some shakeups around. Some people are experiencing depth of old emotions arising, different things in occurrence. There's going to be another eclipse season before we go. And then I really like these dates because it's the perfect time to integrate sort of the journey of the year we've had thus far, to realign, recalibrate, ground, but also lift up, which for those of you who study yoga and the pranic vayus, that's one of the key things we do in yoga is we send the down energy up and the up energy down, and we integrate. And so it's a really beautiful time. Love the dates. But a reminder, you can register with a deposit. So just a deposit and then schedule the rest in 5 chunks. But because we need to meet a minimum number 6 months before it, I'm asking everybody register by April 15th, just to make sure our trip moves forward. I know we definitely have the minimum number saying they're going, but we do need the deposits in by that date to ensure that. And if you register by the end of this month, which is March, you'll get $200 off. So if you think you might register by April 15th, you might want to register before that and just save the 200 in addition to that. But I am really excited. I'm thrilled so many of you guys have expressed interest. That being said, it's not going to be like a huge retreat. Will be a smallish, intimate group. So you'll have room to engage with friends, to engage with one another. I think the houses have jacuzzis that can be filled with this magical hot geothermic water. So if you're like me and you like to constantly be immersed in hot water, you can have at it. So it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited. And another side note, there are several of you guys that I've met only online. So I'm really excited to see your faces, not through a screen, but through the real time activity. And on a personal note, when I have traveled in the past, and I've traveled a fair amount. I lived in India when I was a young woman. My first jobs after college were working in that environment. I traveled around. I worked in Fiji for a while. I worked all these different places before returning to school at a certain point in my life. And there is, when you travel places, there is something that does lift and lighten in the soul. And there is this beautiful environment where we can make intentional offerings to ourselves and we can connect in a new way and we can really refresh ourselves in a way that does actually feed and nourish you long after a retreat is over. So please register if this is speaking to you. And also, if you have like a friend or someone that you think would love it, please feel free to pass them my information or the information on the website. Now, just real quick, I promised to address Astro Yoga teacher training. This is an online course that I run once a year at this point. And we are going to run it in later this spring. This is something that I do once a year because I give, while we record the lessons, I give an in-person astrology reading and also a live info and like feedback session to the people who register when they register in this time period. So if you register by the end of May, you will receive those things from me. And if we have a big enough group, we'll do our info sessions together. I'm not going to go too deeply into this because I know that we have limited time and I want to be mindful of that. But for those who are interested in taking this 50-hour either continuing education course or module in the 300-hour training, it is going to be available at this time. Here's what happens. We study the luminaries, the zodiac, the elements, the koshas, the chakras and planets, the planetary zodiac connections and mudra, the astrological houses and how to draw your chart, literally, like with your hands, the astrological aspects, which are the relationships among planets, how to interpret them, the planetary current movements, so transits, how they affect life, and then, of course, how to plan an astro yoga practice. So that is all about the astrology mind-body connection. For those who wish to teach astro yoga in your classes or give astrology readings eventually, it's a course that's designed to give you what you need to really get started with that. So again, I want to focus on Iceland because I know that's why, especially like the people who are here live, I know we're on it, but that is happening. Reach out to me if you want it. And then if you have questions, here's some email addresses. hello@astroyoga.org or emily@emilyridout.com. Here's the web address for the Iceland trip and the web address for Astro Yoga teacher training. I can also send you those. So this is that's what I wanted to cover. And now I'm going to stop the share of this presentation and re-enter into just conversation. So Um, so, some questions that people have, well, you guys can just ask them right now, and I can also, I'm going to go into people's intake forms and pull out some questions too. Emily or Paula, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
All right.
How big is the group size typically? Or can it be?
I expect this to be probably 16 to 20 is usually where we end up, and that's a sweet size group uh,
Yeah.
for this offering. So that's kind of where we're hoping to end up. Um, this was literally the very last week that was even available to do an Iceland retreat. My partners in Iceland only offer a certain number of weeks a year, so there's kind of a wait list of groups, and part of my job is finding the right teachers and the right group. So when Emily kind of, this kind of came up and came available, I was like, oh, this would be really, really special. Do you know what I mean? So that's part of what I do. It's like, the 20-year-olds from Los Angeles who just want to do hot yoga. I'm like, yeah, you can do that a lot of places, right? But this, I'm sorry, I have opinions, and there's something for everybody, right? But there's something very special about this, and I'm particular because my partners there have become like family to me, and what they're offering is really unique. It's not just we're going on a yoga retreat or vacation. Like you're gonna have an experience here. Like it's gonna touch you in a deeper way than a lot of other places. And I've been to a lot of places. I can tell you all about Greece and Italy and Mexico and Costa Rica and all of this stuff. But man, there's something about North Iceland specifically that's very special. And having a teacher like Emily and bringing, the knowledge and kind of the connection that she has to lands like this, I was like, yeah, you're going to get it. You're going to get this place and you're going to be able to tap into something and offer something bigger. And she has all this support up there. So a couple things I'll offer to anyone who might watch this recording. Me and my team, we're resources for you guys. So anybody who signs up, you're in touch with me, and I have a couple other people who work with me. Like, we're here to hold your hand. We're going to tell you about when to book travel. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to tell you all about Iceland, anything that you need to know. So, that's what we're here for. I manage the housing, right? People get worried about the housing, like, oh, I've got to share a bathroom, all this stuff. Totally get it. It's different. And it's never really an issue. There's something kind of cool about living in North Iceland. You're living in community, right? You get to be in this shared. There's actually two houses that are connected, kind of like a duplex, and two more that are connected like a duplex. So it's kind of like you've got this little built-in family community for the week. And to me, that's part of the charm, is living like that and being able to walk, right? To walk into town, um, you know, to just feel like you live there, if that makes sense. There's something really cool about that. Um, and the bathroom situation is really never an issue. People think it is. Emily and I will make sure that people are kind of matched up in the house. That makes sense. The women, and usually there's one double and a couple singles, so usually four people sharing each house. Um, but it's charming. It's part of the charm of it. So that's what I'll say about that. And there's bathrooms everywhere. Right? You're not in the house as much as you think you are. You're up in the morning, you do your yoga practice, you go to lunch, and then you're out in the countryside, right? You're actually experiencing Iceland. Because for me, you don't go to a place like this and not experience the place, right? That's the gift. And the yoga teacher is bringing the practices that just help people be more attuned to it, right? So when you go out for the day, you're like, oh, right, I can receive now what's being offered. Um, so that's really what it's about. And I'll also add to that, this is one of the destinations that is really welcoming for bringing like your friend or your husband or your daughter or your mother, right? Like the people in your life that maybe aren't aren't doing the yoga practice, but have an interest in the location, because it's just a yoga class in the morning. They don't have to go to the yoga class, right? They could actually sleep in, walk around town, and just meet the group for lunch, which is in the middle of town. Everyone will get to know where that is. Also, the wellness center is yours for the week. So they could come, sit for kind of the opening part of the yoga practice, and then go sit in the zero gravity chairs, or get online in the lobby, in the lounge area, or go sit in the jacuzzi, right? So I've had plenty of people do that. They'll do a little bit of the yoga, and then they'll just, go and enjoy the rest of the hour using the wellness center. So I just want to encourage that, because it's really sweet, um, to invite those people who may not be part of your yoga world, but can get a taste of what the heck you're up to, and usually they go, wow, this is great. And they want to, have a little bit more of that. So I just wanted to encourage that, because this is one of the locations that I think it's really conducive. It's not a yoga training. It's not a yoga intensive that would be intimidating. You're getting personalized tours. You have your own private bus that just you guys are on when you're kind of moving around, from place to place. You're with, my partners up there who are the yogis. He also drives a bus. He gets on the microphone and he tells you guys information about Iceland and the culture and the folklore. And he does it with real heart, because he's also a yogi. So he's going to add that element to the trip. So yeah,
What?
that's what I have to say about some of that.
She already told me.
I love that because I studied folklore in both undergraduate and graduate school. So, so when I hear the word folklore, I get really thrilled about it. I did get some questions. I will attempt to answer them, and then Laura can save me for the details, I think. So some of the questions that came in were a lot of people, when they look at the double room, so they were looking to book and they said, okay, I'm coming with, a friend. Do, do the double rooms have two single beds, or do they have a shared bed? And
Yeah.
the answer is either. Is that
Yes. Yes. So we always ask those questions when people register. If you're coming with a friend or a partner, and if you're with a friend, we put you in a room, two beds. If you're coming as a couple, we put you in a room with one bed. Or one has a king bed. In Europe, you find they have twin beds that they put a connector and put a topper on, so you can set it up however you need. And I pay attention to that, and we ask those questions to make sure everybody's in the house with their friends with the right bed configuration.
perfect? Yeah, that was something that came up.
Yeah.
Um, the level of accessibility came up, as far as like what is the physical level that you need to have to do the activities. I think for yoga, as far as I'm concerned, the yoga can be made accessible to whomever. Obviously, some people in different bodies will be doing different movement activities, but as far as my arc is concerned, my goal with the yoga is to give people, yes, to create a wonderful experience, but also to give you practices that people can do at home that will continue to align them afterwards, and then to do the practices that will align and attune with the particular moment. But Laura, you know more about like the locations and what the accessibility level is to like go to the waterfall or the hot springs or the bus.
Yeah. I would not say this is appropriate to someone who's in a wheelchair, right? Or who can't walk a mile, let's say 1 mile. You don't have to be able to hike, crazy, but you do need to be able to walk comfortably and unpaved surfaces, right? Because you're going to be out in the countryside a couple times. You do a nice hike on Hrise Island. There's different paths you can take. One's longer, one's shorter. You can take your time. It's not super vigorous. You don't need to be in, super health. We have all ages, but it would be difficult if someone has real limited mobility because there's, you got to be able to walk, up and down stairs, on and off the bus, on unpaved surfaces, that sort of thing. There aren't a lot of guardrails in Iceland. I've noticed in the last 10 years they've started to put up some guardrails around some of these places you go because of tourists who don't respect nature. Um, but you really, I mean, it's some raw nature out there, in all the right ways. So you just want to, bring a good pair of boots, hiking shoes that have some water resistance and, have enough mobility that you feel comfortable, you know, walking. You know what I mean? If that helps. And if you have more specific questions, please just always email me because I know it's hard to I can give a better description if someone tells me kind of what their situation is.
Like
And I
very
can, because
specific.
I've been there so many times, I can ask the right questions specifically to that person. And, if there's maybe one thing that would be a challenge, we can talk through it and, you know,
That would be
figure
good.
out if they're going to be comfortable or not.
That would be good because from my perspective, I'm like, well, anybody can do yoga, but
Correct.
as far as like the specific environmental concerns, um, let's see. Other questions I got. Um, okay, we covered a couple things. Oh, the best place to get an electronic adapter and what is the currency? You can use credit cards all over, is what I learned.
Correct.
And um, adapters are readily available usually on Amazon or other shopping
Yeah,
places.
and I send information about that. It's really just it's called a C type. You get a 3 pack for $7, right? And I'll send that to people. Um, the voltage there, 110 in America, 220 there. But the cool thing is all of our electronics are designed nowadays to be able to deal with either currents. So all you need is the plug adapter. You can charge your devices, you can charge your phone, your computer, everything else. You don't necessarily bring an American hair dryer. That's the one that'll not like the current, but you have hair dryers available, so you don't need that anyway. All you need is the plug adapter, to charge the things that you need to charge.
And then they asked also if there's utensils and stuff in the
Yeah, the
kitchens.
houses are totally stocked um, with everything you need, and our hosts actually stock the houses with like teas, coffees, breakfast foods, cereals, stuff for gluten-free people, some dried fruits, nut butters, that sort of stuff. So everything's available there for people to kind of manage their morning routine. Um, Dairy, non-dairy, all the stuff. We've gotten really good at it. So that's another sweet thing about living in a house versus a hotel is that people can, some people get up early, some people don't. Everybody just kind of can get up and have their coffee, can have a snack, can do what they want to do. I really enjoy that a lot versus, having to go to a hotel buffet or that sort of thing. But the houses are stocked with everything you need.
And
And
then,
if you need something else, you can get it in town or we can get it for you.
nice. And then there was a question about meals, and I'm pretty sure it's that we have many, many meals together, but there are maybe 2 nights where maybe people want to get their own or like go off with their group. I mean, they'll still, is that true, Laura?
So yes. So breakfast, right? You have whatever you like for breakfast in the morning. You have your yoga class. I usually eat kind of light in the morning. Some people get up earlier than me. That's all up to you. You have your yoga class. Everybody has lunch together, so lunch is included every single day. Then there's different activities in the afternoons. There are 4 group dinners during the week. Um, Most of them it's special places, so some of them are part of the excursion, like when you're out by the Godafoss waterfall, we have a restaurant we go to that overlooks the lava fields, etc. There's 3 open dinners, and that's by design because people, sometimes want to break into smaller groups or they see a restaurant in the town of Akureyri that they want to go to. That just gives you a little more spaciousness. And from my experience, you know, eating so many meals all the time, sometimes you just want a night off, right? Or you're like, oh, I don't want to sit down at another big meal, right? So this is kind of by design to give people a little more breathing room and spaciousness. They just want to have something light. And again, you're right in the town center. There's lots of places in the town center. You know, you're done with your excursion for the day. Now you've got the rest of the day and the evening to kind of, decompress, be with people, not be with people. You can walk back to your house anytime you want. So just 3 open dinners.
Nice. And I also received a question about dietary, like if you're a vegetarian um or
We collect all of that from registrants in advance. We send you guys a survey to collect your travel plans, your dietary stuff, all of that. So we have that in advance, and it's no problem. So we always have vegetarians, couple vegans, perhaps dairy free, gluten free, all of those things. You just let us know. Um, and those meals that are included all will have options for you guys, so that's not an issue. If you are not a vegetarian, I do recommend the fish, because it's some of the cleanest, best fish I've had in my life, and I don't eat a lot of fish. I also don't eat a lot of red meat, but the lamb in Iceland is quite special. It's part of their ecosystem. Um, so those are a couple offerings that are there. If you're willing to try those I would just recommend, because they are, I don't know what the word is. They revere, right? This is part of their ecosystem and their life, if that makes sense. Is that my computer? Just started playing music.
Mercury's been in retrograde and
Oh, I think I muted myself too.
yeah, my internet has been cutting in and out like random. My lights went out the other day and I was like, huh, why? I live in 100-year-old house, over 100, so maybe it's that, but
typically gets snowed.
it's mysterious. I think I went through, there were a couple other questions. Someone asked, I don't think they're here present though, but someone asked about personal coaching and the Iceland trip. I think we've covered a lot about the Iceland trip since it was, so the Iceland trip is going to be really special. It's actually a great way for us to come together. And actually, I've been immersed for many years in ongoing research projects with people on the use of medical astrology in alignment with astrological phenomenon and like people's bodies and how they respond to that. That's not to say that I'll be doing any medical astrology on you. I am a medical astrologer. I do work with some holistic practitioners and their patients, but I've been immersed in like multi-year research projects examining that. And so I do have a large body of work and experiences looking at why we align, not just, of course, like there's what you learn in traditional yoga. And so you know like what to do, but then like seeing how it works and why we do it and connecting dots in that way. And so I get really excited about that. So as far as personal coaching, I don't call anything I do coaching, but I do work with clients one-on-one who want to do astrology and yoga. And I certainly work with the students in the 300 hour. So when we run that, that's typically a very small group, sometimes very small. Like I've had just one person, two people, this kind of thing. Sometimes it's a bigger group. It just depends. But we work with people more one-on-one in that. And then I do have something called Quintessence membership, which is an add-on to membership if people want to work one-on-one with me, where we meet once a month. So that was a question that came up. If that person wants to know more, they can reach out to me directly and I can answer more questions. Um, the other question was, there were a couple people who can't come this time because of a date commitment, and they asked if we would do it again, and for the Iceland trip, and I think I did answer that directly to them, but in case someone else has that question, it really depends on, if we get this one to go and it goes well and everybody's really enthusiastic to go again. So, go this time because it's going to be the time. And then the future is, of course, unwritten. So there's no like, Laura and I haven't been like, and then we'll do it every 5 years or whatever. But so to answer that question, this is the time to go. And really, this is the year to go. This is the year to travel for many, um, for myself included. I looked at the astrology charts and I was like, it's the moment. So I think we covered it. There was a general question about astro yoga. Um, so astro yoga is the combo of astrology and yoga. It connects to your physical body, your energy body. Um, it connects you to the tapestry that in yoga we sometimes call the sea of the ocean of consciousness, which is the understanding that we live in a unified field and that our physical emanations that we view as separate are actually all connected through this quintessence etheric akashic element. And so it is this really the precise application of something that's been tested and worked on for thousands of years. And so anyway, I won't go too deeply into that, but that's what it is. If anyone gets a spark from it, I encourage you to dive deep because the world needs more people tuning into these things. Well, you guys, are there any final questions here?
What typically is the weather there at that time of year? I know weather can change.
So this week is kind of the cusp at the end of autumn, moving into the beginning of winter, which is kind of a sweet spot. And it's hard to know exactly what's going to be happening those last weeks of October. Um, Usually snow's starting to show up on the mountains, and sometimes it's starting to show up on the ground as well. So you probably get a nice mix of some winter white showing up. During the week, you're going to some different parts of Iceland. So when you go to Mývatn, you're going a little bit inland, a little bit higher. So usually there's some snow showing up around there. That being said, I've been there at the end of October where there isn't as much snow, and I've been there the second week of October where a whole bunch of snow showed up and then disappeared, right? So it's an interesting time. It's one of my favorite times to go because you're getting that shift of the elements. Um, as Emily mentioned, it's a sweet spot too because the Northern Lights is a big, kind of wish list for people, and the things that you need for the Northern Lights is solar activity, which you can't. It's always happening, but you can't really predict it very far in advance. Um, you need dark skies, and you don't start to get good number of dark skies until around October, like late September, October. So going, October, beginning of November is that sweet spot where you've got light during the day, you've got 10 hours of darkness at night, right? It feels very balanced. Um, and really that's key, is just having some hours at night where it's dark enough. And then of course cloud cover is a stinker, and that one you can't predict either. But when you're there for 7 days, you know your hosts, they are always watching kind of the conditions of the sky, the solar activity, the cloud conditions. So they're always looking for where those windows might be. And usually during a week, if you're only there 2 days, it's kind of hard. But if you're there for the whole week, there's usually some opening where he's going to be paying attention to try to give everybody, something so they can say that they saw the Northern Lights. And the cool thing is all of these new phones, iPhones and such, they can now capture the Northern Lights. They couldn't 5 years ago. It used to be really hard. Now you can get pictures just from your phones. So fingers crossed, you've got the timing right to have some opportunities there, and you've got that sweet transition of the seasons. So I'm sure it'll be a great week, whatever happens, right? You don't know. You could,
That's right. Yeah.
you know,
I love the Northern Lights. I remember the first time I saw them. Well, I saw them once and they were kind of like chilling. And then the next time I saw them a couple days later, they were just dancing. And you look up at that dancing Northern Light situation and it's like such a palpable experience of like, oh, like the earth is alive. I mean, we know the earth is alive, the trees and the plants and the birds and us, right? We're here, we're part of it. But you look at the sky and it's so active. It's wild. So I'm really excited about that. Um, it's beautiful.
I might be traveling by myself. I'm not sure yet. Do you get people traveling by themselves?
all the time, all the time. Iceland is one of the safest places on the planet, number one. So you can rest assured with that. And we will start collecting everyone's travel plans in advance. And we'll share that stuff with you guys. So we'll create a big group information packet, which lists everybody, all the participants, your contact details, etc. And I'm sure Emily's going to know people who are traveling, so we can often, connect people. It's like, oh, you're both traveling from the same place. You might coordinate a friend in advance, and even if you can't, you're all meeting up at the same place. Um, Iceland's pretty darn easy and really safe. So yes, all the time. That's the short answer.
I will also be most likely alone in my traveling there. So, so yeah, so if people are alone, I am happy to like show up and meet you as long as I'm already there, or, to connect. Because it does feel, when you get on a plane by yourself to go to a foreign country, sometimes you are like, oh, but there's that excitement, and I'm glad that Laura's sharing how safe it is and stuff. And
Super modern, super clean. Everyone speaks English. That's a
Oh,
big thumbs up.
yeah, helps. Anything else, Neil? Okay. Thank you.
well, thanks to you guys for being here. And to everyone who watches this later, thank you. Send me your questions. I'll connect you with Laura too if you have questions that you're like, that are Laura questions. Um, Laura, thank you for sharing with us your expertise. And Paula, Emily, I hope you guys come. And to those watching this replay, I'm excited to do yoga with you too in the most majestic place this October. So I will end the call with that, and just a big heartfelt thanks to you guys and lots of love. I know it's eclipse season and people are getting the shake up. So thanks for taking this time. Have beautiful days.
Thank you.
Thank
You too.